McKinsey's reckons that if you're 10 years old today, by the time you finish working, you might have up to 29 different careers, which tells us that the skill of adaptability becomes much more important than the skill of fitting into a system that's now disappearing right in front of us. And so, what is adaptability? Adaptability is the ability to learn, unlearn, learn, and unlearn multiple times. Because in your state of adaptability, you're not stuck to an identity that you've developed through education or through work. You're now fluid in the way that you show up. And the only way you can really be fluid and curious is you follow your uniqueness and your genius, because those things come easy to you. And if you don't do things that come easy to you, you'll be perplexed by the amount of change that's coming around you.
Welcome to the Mindset Game podcast. I'm so delighted to have a very special guest, John Sanei, with us today. John is a global futurist, best-selling author, and is ranked fifth among the world's top futurists for 2025. With 11 books to his name, 5 of them bestsellers, John helps Fortune 100 companies, governments, and royal families rethink the future and navigate human AI dynamics. He's the co-host of the 2 times award-winning podcast, The Expansive, and serves at the faculty of Singularity University, Duke Corporate Education, and the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies. When it comes to making sense of what's next, John Sanei is the voice you want guiding you through the noise. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
I got to hear you at the National Speakers Association, a big influencer event. You knocked it out of the park. You were absolutely phenomenal. And everything that you shared was spot on. And I think something that every person, particularly every leader and decision maker, needs to hear. So absolutely grateful that you're taking some time to be with us today and to share with us a little bit about the future of work, AI, and what we need to know to get ourselves prepared.
Awesome. Yeah, grateful to be here. So glad that you were at the conference. It was such a big event for me. I mean, I'm not even part of the National Speakers Association, and they invited me. So it was a huge privilege. So wonderful to be being part of that community still speaking to you today.
Well, one of the things that you talked about is in the age of AI that people need to really differentiate themselves, to really stand out and express their what you called their unique brilliance, their authenticity, things that AI will not, or at least at this point, cannot replicate. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think to give it context, we realize that the skills that we have to bring to the world over paradigm shifts change. And the paradigm shifts over the last sort of few hundreds of years has been from agriculture to industrial to AI. And so we realized that in the agricultural era, the most important skill we could bring to the world was our physicality and our obedience to the seasons and our forefathers. In the industrial era, our physicality was replaced by industrial machinery, and our physicality became quite irrelevant. And if we think about how physicality is measured, it's measured in horsepower. And back then, when we were farmers, we were a third of a horsepower. A horse was a one of a horsepower. The first truck from Mercedes-Benz was 4 horsepower. And today we have rockets with 7 million horsepower. So we realize that horsepower and human physical capabilities are not relevant. In the industrial era, as our physicality was being replaced by machinery, we realized that we had to develop new skills. And the new skills became how well you could fit into the system of the Industrial Revolution, which was the educational system, the organizational system, even some religious systems, all dependent on your ability to fit into the mold that was required for you. And in that process, we developed our intelligence, our logical, analytical thinking, and outcome-based thinking. If you think about it, school, work, everything's about an outcome. It's not really about adaptability or creativity at all in any way. In fact, if you were too adaptable and too creative, you weren't really fitting into the system, and your teacher would call you a rebel or say that you were causing havoc because you weren't fitting into the system. And so for the 200 years that we were in the Industrial Revolution, intelligence, IQ, was really what the most important thing was. But here we are today in the age of AI, where our current AI machines and platforms have an IQ of around 155. And Elon Musk has an IQ of 155. Einstein has an IQ of 162. And you realize that that level of genius, which is really just 50 points more than the average person on IQ, is able to turn machinery, industry, sector, inside out, upside down continuously, as both of them have done. And we realize that the very idea of IQ is being now replaced by AI because AI is doubling on intelligence every 6 months or so. So if it's at 155, soon it'll be at 310, 620, 1240, which means that we'll be starting to deal with IQ levels way beyond anything we've ever really experienced. And so we realize that just like physicality was replaced, our IQ is now going to be replaced as well. And if you ask yourself the idea that you move from muscles to brains, what's left? It's heart. And so heart, intuition, uniqueness, brilliance, genius, curiosity, fascination, call it what you want to call it. We were never celebrated for at school. You were never celebrated for it at work. You were really asked at work and at school to fit into the system that was created to bring about efficiencies and outcomes. Where we find ourselves today is as IQ becomes replaced with AI, meaning that all the rudimentary types of thinking, logical based ways of thinking, are going to be nullified. We don't need to do them. So falling into a system would be the worst thing you could do. And I think I used this example at the talk, was people go to something called university after school, and uni means one. You go to learn one thing, and you do that one thing over and over and over and over and over until you die. That was the way the world was set up. McKinsey's reckons that by the time if you're 10 years old today, by the time you finish working, you might have up to 29 different careers, which tells us that the skill of adaptability becomes much more important than the skill of fitting into a system that's now disappearing right in front of us. And so what is adaptability? Adaptability is the ability to learn, unlearn, learn, and unlearn multiple times, because in your state of adaptability, you're not stuck to an identity that you've developed through education or through work. You're now fluid in the way that you show up. And the only way you can really be fluid and curious is you follow your uniqueness and your genius, because those things come easy to you. And if you don't do things that come easy to you, you'll be perplexed by the amount of change that's coming around you. So following the thing that wasn't celebrated at school, which is really the uniqueness of curiosity that you have, which has been God given to us and never been celebrated. Now, all of a sudden, we are able to become more human than ever before. And so people are worried about their jobs and worried about what's going to come. I remind them that if the Industrial Revolution didn't arrive, you'd still be a farmer. And why would you want to be a farmer? And most people say, yeah, in the romantic terms, yes, I'd love to be on a farm. I said, yes, for 3 weeks. You'll be bored out of your tree. You won't be able to speak to anybody. There would be no Zoom or electricity. Forget about all those things that you don't want to take for granted. And as we move into this age of AI, guess what? We're going to become more human than ever before, more heart-led than ever before. Because what's left when all the rudimentary logical things are taken away is human connection, is human relationships, is humanness more so than anything else. So uniqueness lends itself to the idea that we'll follow what's more unique and curious to us and genius to us than ever before.
And one of the things that you mentioned is that in order to do that, we need to unlearn, if you will, release an aspect of our identity, which we thought, we were, to be able to consider what we might be, right? The potential
Yes.
to explore new possibilities for ourselves. How do we do that? How do we shift those deeper beliefs about who we are, and how important is mindset in the age of change?
So look, I mean, there's a couple of questions there. Let's start off with how do you do that? How do you start to follow uniqueness over logic and outcome, which is what we've been trained with. And the older you are, the more caught up you are with logic and outcome than you are with curiosity. And you think curiosity is kind of a hippy dippy, lentil eating, sandal wearing kind of thing, it's not. It's really the most genius people in the world are following that sort of, I don't know, that heart energy that is really just what gets you to access the best version of yourself. Look, the way I have done it, and I think that the way science is now proving to us that we need to start doing it, is understanding that everything around you is a result of the way you think. Everything. And so when you think about mindset, it is the most important thing, because the way that you think develops the projection and echo that is happening around you. And most people don't want to accept the fact that they have created their reality, because it's a big pill to swallow to realize that you've created all your drama, you've created all that tenseness, and you don't want to take responsibility for it, right? But once you do, and once you grow up and you realize that all of it is actually you and that you're willing to take responsibility for it, you then become very empowered. And you realize that the frequency that's around you is based on the way that your brains are wiring and firing together between the neurons that have created your personality. And as my favorite teacher in the world, Dr. Joe Dispenza, says, your personality creates your personal reality. And in the state of your personal reality, you are in a familiarity machine of repetition. You're not actually in an exploration machine. You're much more addicted to what you know, even though you might not even like what you know, you're still more addicted to it than you are in exploration. So you have to ask yourself, if your operating system is stuck to your identity and now you need to become adaptable, what you have to realize is that you have to change your operating system, because your operating system is the thing that's determining you being stuck or not. And the way you change your operating system is to think of yourself as a car. And what you have is you have two gears that really are what most people suffer from. The first gear is being in second gear and revving the car at 7,000 revs. Think about what that car is making a sound of. It's screeching, it's straining, there's smoke coming out of it, it's highly stressed, it's irritable, it's irritated, it's angry, it's all of those things. And then you have a fifth gear with 3,000 revs when you're in a total cruise mode. And in that cruise mode, you're able to see things more clearly. You're able to elevate your awareness. You're able to take the world in a much different way. And in fact, you get quicker to where you're going in fifth gear and 3,000 revs. But most people are stuck in racing from traffic light to traffic light to traffic light to traffic light. But most people, teenagers do this. Teenagers run around revving their cars at very high revs, and it irritates all of us. But guess what? Most of us are doing that to our own brains and our own nervous systems. And when you are in second gear at 7,000 revs, you do not want to let go of your identity. You're in survival mode. And so the trick is to calm your nervous system down. It's kind of all it is. And then you got to ask yourself, then how do I calm my nervous system down? And the way you calm your nervous system down is by healing your trauma. Many of our nervous systems are stuck in defense modes, in jealousy modes, in all sorts of modes that are not comfortable based on some trauma that hasn't been processed. And the second thing that I always recommend is meditation, because what meditation does, it allows you to focus on what you want to focus on. And if you think you are focusing on what you want to focus on, then try and manage your brain for 5 minutes and sit still. And if you can't focus what you want to focus on. Your brain's telling you what to focus on. And so you realize that the healing your past and practicing meditation allows you to calm the nervous system. And as soon as you start to calm the nervous system down, your mindset starts getting affected, the way you think starts getting affected. And as you do that, you start to see new opportunities around you. And now you become optimistic about uncertainty rather than being stuck to certainty.
That's right. And so mindset is everything, and mindset is
Everything.
correlated, as you said, with state. Yes, because how we feel and
Yes.
how we think and what we radiate out into the field around our bodies. And so one of the things that we talk about on this show, in addition to, of course, the importance of our belief systems and having those aligned with our desires, what it is that we want to achieve, is physiological coherence. We've had various guests from the HeartMath Institute on the show. How
Yes.
important is it to radiate those positive emotions in this, again, time of rapid change, when our ability to influence others, to help others feel safe, to build trust, our humanity's connection, as you said, in this day and age? How important is that?
Again, I don't think there's anything more important, to be honest, is to manage the mindset and to manage the way that you are engaging with the world determines how the world reflects back to you. It reflects everything that's going on inside of you and around you. So when we think about our bodies, we realize that our bodies are often become programmed to become addicted to certain emotions. And those emotions are anger or fear or anxiousness or any one of those emotions. And because our bodies become addicted to those emotions, our brain starts to look for various scenarios around the world to reconfirm that addiction to our bodies. That is your body making decisions on your behalf. And again, you could be in the Maldives in the five-star resorts, and on day three, your body will go, Virid, I'm sure it's about now. Usually you get a bit of anxiousness because you're busy with something at work, and we haven't felt anxious for 3, 4 days. We need a little bit of a hit. And your brain will start looking for scenarios to want to hit you with that sort of thing. And so you realize your body's been programmed to work against you because of unhealed trauma and because of that addiction to certainty that you've been just like pedaling like a car that's stuck in mud more than anything else. And so I think the holistic opportunity here, the opportunity here is to heal holistically, is to do the body healing, to be able to release those emotions that have been programmed into it. At the same time, starting to rewire the brain so that you can start to have these new, I call them positive future memories. Is that most of us are in repetition of catastrophes and then projecting these catastrophes into the future and then telling all our friends, I told you so. I knew it was going to happen. Well, yes, you are the one that's orchestrated it. So, of course, it was going to happen. And so, having the dual opportunity of healing the physiology as well as rewiring the brain at the same time, you're now giving yourself the best opportunity to be adaptable and optimistic about the future. And most importantly, start to trust your heart. And as you start to trust your heart and fall into your heart, you now become curious about the world around you. It's kind of as simple as that. Maybe not easy, but quite simple to understand the formula.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you're in a coherent state, you've got a different signal going to your brain. You're in a whole brain, coherent brain state, and perceptions change, stories
So
change.
the most important thing is to keep that coherence. That
That's
actually there is nothing else for you to do except keep coherence. And guess what meditation does? It focuses your energy to keep coherence. There's one thing you said about uplifting emotions, and just to touch on that, if you are able to continuously catch yourself when you're not focused on uplifting emotions and bring that fitness into your life. And it is fitness because you have to create the fitness of focus. And when you're able to continuously come back into the uplifting spirals of emotions while you're thinking about the world, all the new opportunities arrive, all the right people arrive, all the, all that sort of stuff arrives around you. And you realize that it's not really about the action, it's about the maintenance of the frequency. And as you just focus on the maintenance of the frequency, there's nothing else for us to do. Nothing. And as a futurist, it's really weird for me to tell this to people because they're like, it sounds a bit woo. I'm like, do you not understand that your future is based on the way you perceive it? And if you perceive it in an anxious way, well, like, I can tell you about AI till the cows come home. And I can tell you about blockchain and cell phone stroke. I can tell you about anything to do with the future. You coming at it triggered. What's the point? So rather, let's just focus on your trigger and then you can go figure out the future yourself. And then all of a sudden, all the new opportunities arrive to you. But because people are addicted to certainty, and there's a great quote from Einstein, he says, clever people need to solve a problem, wise people avoid it. And so it's like, we just need to avoid it. And people think, no, if you avoid it, you're like an ostrich with a head in your sand, head in the sand. And I'm like, no, you're the one who needs to cause problems to now solve them to give yourself some lot of credit. And that's an old operating system. We need new operating systems for the world ahead.
That's right. And on this show, John, one of the things that we do is we really offer those tools to people because a lot of times they're like, I just don't know how. How do I get coherent? How do I change my beliefs? And we've had many guests like Dr. Dick Schwartz from Internal Family Systems and,
Oh, let me tell you that internal family system. Oh my God. Look, I've adjusted these programs. Can I tell you what I've done that I think is so helpful? Oh my God. I've actually written about it in my new book. I call it the Happy Mayor game. And it has been the most profound game, but it was very much inspired by internal family systems. And the whole point of the Happy Mayor game is that you're the mayor of a city and you want to have happy citizens in your city. And your citizens all have to get along with each other, right? And so when you start coming up against these emotions that are 6-year-old or 10-year-old versions of yourself that you've created to protect yourself, I name them and visualize them and conversate with them. And so I've got Shaky Sherwin, I've got Ben the Betrayed. I've got so many. I've got like 15 of them. Anyway, a lot of them have gone to sleep. Courtney, who always used to take me to court or self-judgment, Courtney, 12-year-old girl. And I have got the perfect picture of what they look like, how they behave, how tall they are, how short they are. And the more you can apply a physical picture to them, the more you become familiar with them and the more you can love them. Whereas I remember with IFS, I didn't get that opportunity to name them, characterize them. There was a different approach. But I think the way of naming them characters, because I can tell you how each one of the characters look actually, and they could be girls, they could be guys, they could be teenagers, they could be anything, right? And so it's been the most fundamental change in my internal dialogue because the minute you name a character, you disassociate from it. And the minute you disassociate from it, now you can talk to it and now you can love it. I mean, it's just been profound. Bless them for coming up with that system.
Yeah, I'm with you. And everything that we're talking about here is really about how to create a sense of harmony and safety in our inner system.
Yes.
So when we are coherent, when we're in that what we call self-led, in IFS words, self-led, capital S, self-led state,
Mm,
we are curious to get to know our inner family,
mhm,
these parts that are holding on sometimes to extreme beliefs, which
mhm.
are how we show up in the world and what we project and reflect is reflected back to us. So I agree with you 100% that it is our inner world that creates our perception of our outer world. And
Yes.
this time of rapid change, when people, uh, as you said, go, 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 and focused on trying to find some sense of certainty in this very uncertain world, they they focus so much on the external
Yeah.
that,
Only actually on external
yeah,
most of the time. Yeah.
exactly. And so the biggest, I believe, superpower, edge, opportunity here
Yeah.
is to get to know our inner system as you're doing, what we call parts mapping, getting to know these different
Right.
parts of us and to love them and accept them exactly as they
Mm,
are. And then they will help us to be able to rethink um, what more objectively about who we want to become. And,
mm,
and they will help us to have the mindsets and the skill sets to be able to do that.
mm,
So let's go and now focus on a little bit more on the external in terms of skill sets in the
mm,
generative AI
mm,
world and its quick advance.
mm,
What do people need to know?
mm. In the agricultural era, the size of your land determined your success. And the more land you had, the more you could harvest. It was quite a simple equation. In the industrial era, it was exactly the opposite. The smaller your land was, the more efficient your production was, the more profit you would make, because economies of scale was introduced over this period of time. But as we move into this new AI world, it's no more about the size of your land, it's the size of your attention. We are now moving into the attention economy. Is how many eyeballs do you have on you and how much movement are you making in the world impacting people? And we find that we move from land and efficiency to attention. And then you got to ask yourself, well, how do you create attention? Uniqueness. Because when you're super unique and caught up to your genius, you're so unique that people are there watching you and they're engaging with you. And with the world that we have right now, you just have to have 0.0003% or 1% of the internet loving you. That's all you really need. And you're fine. Bob's your uncle, you got money to live, and you can be non-geographic, you can do what you want. And so when we think about the future of work, we often try and take our existing understanding of work and extrapolate it. We don't often take in the paradigm shifts that come from new technological advancements. And it's difficult sometimes to do that because in my talks, I don't know if I did this at NSA, but I talk about this thing called the zero marginal cost society, where when you digitize a sector, you create it and share it for free. And so you have music, photos, communication, all have become free. And I ask my audiences, did anybody expect these to become free? And everybody will say no. And the reason is you cannot solve a problem from the same awareness that created it. And so when we think about the future of work, we still project our existing idea of work into the future and say, okay, well, how would offices look? And how would employment look? And those are the current paradigm of what we do. And I think that when we think about work, we have to start thinking about it in very, very new ways because understand that an organization was really brought about to bring about efficiencies. That's all it was brought to be. That's the whole reason. And the more efficient you were, the more you could increase your sales and the more profit you'd have. Fantastic formula. But now that AI is here, everybody's going to have access to all free services. Like it's going to be a hyper abundant free service world with agents running around doing a gazillion different things for all of us. We won't even be thinking about it with robots around. So we have to think about work in brand new ways. The purpose of work. When most things around you are free, what's the actual purpose of work? And when most things are around you are being looked after, how are you adding value? Like it can't even be an extrapolation of your current process because think about how many people make money in physicality today. Some PTs, I mean, it must be like a 0. I mean, what, such a small percentage of the human population. And so again, when we think about work, the intellectual aspect of us adding value in that way, I don't even think will be important. Like lots of people in my talk say, well, what about critical thinking? Like, I don't know. When you have an AI with 2,000 IQ points, is critical thinking even something you need to even think about? Because then you ask you, what about picking up boxes of oranges? But if you've got a tractor that can pick up 1,000 boxes of tractors, why would I want to worry about one box of oranges? So again, I think it's a difficult topic because clients want to understand how they will be where they are now and then be a guaranteed of making a decision in the future. And I think it's going to paradigm shift as soon as we start to really get the momentum of AI agents into the workforce, which will initially cause a huge amount of disruption. But eventually people will start to find their way again and get that momentum going.
So, in this attention economy where uniqueness is essential, um, there is a second aspect to that. So, it is uniqueness, which in and of its just nature attracts people to it if it's a value to
Yes,
them. And there's an effort that needs to be made on strategic visibility because in
of
order to
course.
have influence
Yes, of
in
course.
the
Yes,
economy, you have to build credibility twice, as my
yes,
mentor Marshall Goldsmith says. One is to have
yes, yeah,
unique competence and brand,
yeah,
and secondly, to make it known so that others recognize you
yes.
for having that brand and that value.
That's right.
And
That's right.
so, and what's to connect this part of our conversation with the earlier part of our conversation around the inner world is that what we know from research, and this is Dr. Robert Cialdini's research on influence, Dr. Daniel Kahneman's, of course, work on System 1, System 2, is that in order to truly influence, what we're doing is influencing someone's unconscious mind, their inner protective system, what we call System 1, the automatic unconscious system over 95% of the time. That's where the decisions are made. Do I want to hire you, marry you, want to be with you, right? Is made from that not so much rational, logical place, but from that heart place. And so, how important is it now that if we were to kind of focus on the standing out? So, we have the uniqueness as part of standing out, and there's also the influence part. Tell us a little bit more about influence in this new world.
So I think, I mean, influence requires great charisma. Influence requires great presence. Influence requires us not to be desperate for attention.
Mm.
Influence, true influence, asks us to be very much in our power more than anything else. And this really comes down to the idea of power dynamics and how much are we focused in on our own power dynamics. And I made a video recently, not recently, earlier today, and I said, when you meet somebody, are you giving them a remote control or are you giving them a user manual? What are you doing? So you're giving the world the remote control to tell you how to behave based on what they want, or the user manual that says, here are my boundaries, here's my operating system, this is how we work. If you don't work like that, I'm sorry, I can't work with you. And you realize that many, many people give away their power continuously without realizing they're even doing it. And certain people are watching this and manipulating it. And so come some examples. One is people that say, I'm sorry all the time. People are constantly in apology. I'm like, why are you apologize? There's nothing to be like you demean your actions, behaviors, thoughts, and everything because I'm saying I'm sorry. The other one is when you call things expensive. You make it out of reach. Why would you want to do that? Like it's like you expensive. No, it's just of high value. And you will get there if you think that you are worthy of that high value. And so when you think about influence, it's got to do with power dynamics. It's got to do with how you show up. And it's got to do with your character over your reputation, for example. It's like how keen are you on holding that character, even though you might not be liked for a period of time in the short run, or how much integrity do you have inside that stillness within yourself, and how much on purpose are you on? Like how much in that flow of purpose are you on? And lastly, how are you humanizing everything around you? How are you interested in the world around you? And often people think about influence and how you are affecting other people. But for me, influence is a lot more about the curiosity of the people around you and engaging with them, you know? And so, yeah, it's an evolution of our consciousness that's required to truly bring influence when you truly don't really need influence. And that's really where the influence starts to become so the momentum starts to build in such a major way.
That's right. And we start to spiral up, as you said,
Spiral up.
and our presence becomes our reputation. Um,
No, well said.
so, touching a little bit more on this, one of the issues that we often see is that many professionals, because of their conditioning, certain beliefs, they either undersell themselves or oversell themselves. And in doing so, they're not able to gain that momentum, to be able to gain that visibility, and ultimately the ability to have influence, and to make a positive difference that they wish to make in the world. So, and when you think about, in this AI, excuse me, that people
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
struggling, that people are struggling with self-promotion. What do you think is important about that, and in terms of their ability to stand out, and to have opportunities open to them and keep their jobs?
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't doing the work internally. I think that, I call it spiritual, bubblegum spirituality.
Mm.
If people get caught up on this first stage, and I think all of us go through it, I think all of us go through the stage of evolution of waking up and becoming more conscious. And the first step in is almost like, I don't know who listens to your show, but you have these very zealous religious groups. I'm trying to find the right word so I don't upset anybody. And very zealous religious groups that tell you that you need saving, my girl. And don't worry, I'll make sure when I speak to the big man, we can come and save you. And I'm like, guy, what are you doing? Like, that's that's looking for cheap hits. And then what happens is people move away from that and then move into spirituality. And initially, you have the same zealousness about you, telling the world what they need to do and how they need to do it. And that is the initial piece, right? And it's those people that are stuck there that are now looking for attention at all costs and aren't really doing the work. And so, yes, if they're not achieving it and if they're not achieving the thing that they've set out to do, the only thing you can do is go back home and do some homework. Go and check in on yourself because you've got to realize that the results that you're getting, the feedback that you're getting is based on your internal dialogue and your internal frequency. And if you're not getting it and you're trying too hard on it, you've got to ask yourself a very big question. And the question is are you running away from something or are you running towards something? And people that are stuck in this area are running away from something, running away from poverty or running away from lack of security or lack of safety or whatever the case may be. And as you start to evolve yourself, you start to run towards something, which is a very different energy. It looks the same from the outside, but somehow there's synchronicities here and somehow there's no synchronicities here. And then you got to ask yourself what the story is. So if you are stuck there, it's okay because it's a stepping process. I don't think anybody immediately catches that momentum and goes, we've got to go through that process of I don't know, evolution. And and eventually it starts to happen. But you got to go and do the homework. There's no shortcuts. You got to go and heal that past. You got to go and calm that nervous system down and truly, truly to do that.
Yeah, and that starts with love. As we know, the more that we can be curious about our inner world, going back to those inner parts of us, right? These voices that we hear, we're overhearing conversations in our family, so to speak. And so anytime we're coherent, and we are curious about what some of our parts are feeling, then they can share with us why they're protecting us, why, let's say, they're inhibiting us from promoting ourselves or from adapting to something or from stepping into a new identity that is even more helpful and healthy for us. And it is that curiosity and acceptance that is the beginning point of everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say this earlier. I did a psychedelic journey a few months ago, and I was speaking to whatever the psychedelics or my higher self, whatever it was in my state that I was in, and I was complaining, not complaining. I was remarking on there's certain aspects of my life that I need to fix, and I really just haven't fixed them yet. And I was a little bit frustrated in speaking about it. And the voice that came back to me was said, "You need to fix nothing." I was like, "What do you mean?" It says, "You need to accept everything. You need to soften towards your characteristics that you don't like, not scold them." And I was like, "Oh my God." And so my word became soften. Like you have to soften towards yourself, not fix, accept. And it's like, whoa, what a difference. And for internal family systems, exactly what you're saying is very much about that softening towards your internal world, not trying to fight it. Mm.
And when we do that, John, what's most fascinating about this, and as it relates to this rapidly evolving world and all of the fears and polarizations that are going on, is that as we give love and acceptance to all the parts of ourselves, including the parts that we reject, knowing that on some level, those parts, those shadows are there because they need to be there. Because in this world of duality, for me to know who I am, I also
Yeah.
some parts that are equal and opposite, so to speak, in energy.
Mm.
And they're just as lovable, of course. So the idea here is that in order to be able to accept our inner world, we give love. And when we do that, when we're radiating those elevated emotions out into the field, we're not only helping our own system, and I mean also from a health perspective, our own physiological coherence and ability to heal and make good decisions and all of those things, we're also healing the planet because we're radiating these higher emotions that does elevate consciousness. I am one of the things that I do, John, is I'm very involved with the Global Consciousness Project 2.0 from HeartMath. I'm leading the citizen scientist aspect of that. And so we're
Amazing.
creating a whole playbook for individuals, and whether it's parents, individuals, and schools, and so on, to be able to do these little practices, these little experiments to notice how their energy is impacting
Brilliant.
not only themselves,
Brilliant.
but others, including, plants and
Everything.
environment. Correct.
Everything.
That's right.
Everything. Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
measuring that, that's being measured, a lot of that through random number generators and
Mm.
all these kinds of things that are measuring how
Brilliant.
our collective consciousness is shifting when each of us
Brilliant.
do the very things that you spoke of today, which is really exciting.
Wow.
We are seeing such
Well
a
done.
baseline.
I didn't know you were so far advanced in this. This is fantastic. I mean, heart math, a lot of the Dr. Joe people that I've been to 13 Dr. Joe events, and a lot of them are heart math practitioners.
Yeah.
So yeah, very much aligned to that way of thinking. Amazing. Yeah.
So it goes back to the heart. And so how important, again, when we think of future and robots and all this stuff,
Yeah.
how important is our humanity, that genuine human
Mm.
connection?
So let me just back up a bit and let's just talk about the future a little bit because this is kind of what I do. I know we haven't got there yet, but the quote that I use for that aspect of the work is complexity is the enemy of execution. And where we are in the world today is that the future is complex. And what most of us do, especially when you're in a high beta brainwave and lacking coherence, we delete, we distort, and generalize any information that doesn't fit into our existing system that we're fatigued with anyway. And so what we have to do is we have to simplify the future. And the way that you simplify the future is becoming familiar with the future, which means that if you have a calm nervous system, you have all the energy in the world to explore topics that you don't quite understand, that you can explore into and adventure into and have the energy and willpower and engine power to actually go in and start to learn new things, no matter what age you are. But most people are so fatigued and so tired and so exhausted that anytime anything new comes up that doesn't really replicate their familiarity, they don't even engage with it. So the complexity becomes even more complex. The future becomes even further and further away from you and further out of grip with you the longer that your nervous system is not actually engaged with it. So first, we must understand that in order for you to really focus on your heart, because sometimes these topics become quite woo. It's like, yeah, be about love and, accept everything. And well, no, I can't. I'm in full panic because I don't know what to do with my business. And how do you want me to do that? So the step is calm your nervous system, simplify the future. Calm your nervous system, simplify the future. And if you're able to do these two things, you slowly start to come into coherence. Because I also think that just doing brain and heart coherence on its own without truly understanding the future also isn't really that good, because you also need to know what levers you need to be pulling, because we still need to, add value in the world in many different ways. But we also realize that as this technology starts to become more and more prevalent and more ubiquitous, our ability to connect and to be human and to connect to other humans and to impact other humans, human to human, become much more valuable, much more valuable. So I imagine that in the future, you'll have a variation of businesses that will be between AI driven businesses and organic businesses. So you'll be able to go to an AI robotic restaurant that will make you the precise food based on what your Whoop has told the robots that your nutrition is required, blah, 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 blah. Be super cheap, it'll be super delicious, but you'll have a restaurant next door that will have a chef in a bad mood and a waiter that's useless just for nostalgia's sake. And that will be part of that organic experience. And you can go and have an AI make you music that's very personalized, or you can go watch a live event. So you will start to see these disparities between human connection and efficiencies for the less affluent people. And so this side will become more and more and more necessary and more important. And so what I think is going to happen added to this is that we'll start to find new types of hospitality start to be formed. And if you think about it, our hospitality has always been there to get away from this hectic life. But what if we start to think about hospitality driven by transformation or driven by evolving ourselves, learning something, letting go of something? And so I think purposeful hospitality is going to grow immensely, where we will then look for that connection and transformation in our processes of living life between work, not work, non-geographic work, and adding value in brand new ways. But if you're not simplifying the future and calming your nervous system down, all of this is gibberish to you. And so those are really important for you to want to work on as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. And so as we complete here, what do you want to leave the people with here around how to best prepare themselves and their families or teams or organizations for the future?
You cannot solve a problem from the same awareness that created it. If you look at the share price of Zara, have you seen the share price of Zara recently? They've halved over the last 4 years. And you've seen the share price for Shein. Shein is now worth close to $100 billion. Zara's at $10 billion and shrinking. And Zara's an excellent business. There's nothing wrong with Zara. I love Zara, actually. Have you seen the share price for VW? Down the toilet. They're closing factories all around the world. And then you got to ask yourself, what happened to Zara and VW? Multi-billion dollar, multi-international businesses, been around for so long, we could never even imagine not having them around. Their leaders lacked the awareness of what was coming. They were so addicted to their existing systems and business models, they could not even see battery production becoming more important. And Zara couldn't even see there was a new business model being birthed called economies of learning, not economies of scale. And so Shein has this incredible system where it doesn't even create any products until you start to order them, which means that their wastage is like 2%, where Zara's is 25. And so you got to ask yourself, what happened to those leaders? They're not stupid. They're not lazy. They're not, they're not none of those conventional backward ideologies, lack of awareness. And so the biggest question that you could be speaking about around your dinner table, around your organization, is how do I change my awareness at pace? So I literally, not figuratively, literally start to see new opportunities and new solutions ahead of me. If you're not changing your awareness, you're not changing anything. You're playing a fool's game. It's a dog chasing its tail. You've got to start to think about awareness, and then nothing else is more important. And so that operating system, your mindset, all these things that you talk about is really about that coherence that you can bring about. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to survive. You're not going to become relevant in the world that we're moving to that requires a new level of consciousness.
Yeah, thank you, John. Brilliant words. And to add one small thing to that, if it's all right, when we're in that physiologically coherent state and we ask for guidance, there is guidance, it's called non-local intuition. That's what the name that HeartMath calls it. Call it downloads, call it whatever you want to call it. There is information that comes through, a new awareness that comes through from beyond time and space. We know that from research. The heart responds in advance, to certain events. The heart knows somehow what we want to become, what's going to happen, what we need to embrace and accept and grieve in order to step into the new. And so it really does go back to the heart every time. So thank you for giving from your heart to us today.
Pleasure.
Just really all my love to you and to what you are doing. And
Thank you.
it's part of the shift. And
I call myself a Trojan horse of consciousness. I arrive as a futurist, but I'm not really, I'm kind of talking about the future, but I'm really talking about consciousness. But you can't arrive as a consciousness coach. Who's going to hire you? Like very few places are going to hire you. Like Oracle's not hiring you when you're coming in as a consciousness coach. They're coming as a futurist. Yes. So yes, I started my career as a futurist, classic futurist, explaining the future. And as I started to evolve into my career, nobody was changing their behavior. No organization was changing. So then I went into psychology, and then now it's consciousness, because even psychology is not getting us there. So it's really a consciousness game. So yeah, this is how it's evolved.
it really
Cool.
is. Well, thank you. I
Thank
see
you.
you as my brother. And
Pleasure.
how can people learn even more about your phenomenal keynotes, your programs, your
Thank you.
book?
Thank you. There's 8 billion people in the world. There's only one John Sanei. Can you believe my luck? So John Sanei, just Google me. I'm everywhere. I'm constantly sharing. I've got meditations that I've now recorded that I'm giving out for free. I've got newsletters. I've got podcasts. I've got all the things. Attention economy. I'm in the attention economy. I'm working on the attention economy, and so yeah, join me online. I'm constantly sharing my latest research, and so would love to have you join me. So thank you so much for having me, Barrett.
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Game Changers, it's Vered. Just wanted to give you a shout out for tuning into this episode with John Sanei and learning about AI, learning about the future of work, because it is really important that you set yourself up for success. Be as adaptable as you can be, learn tools to be able to shift your old mindsets, to be able to regulate your nervous system. And of course, be even more resilient. Now, if you are leading change, I invite you to check out episode 48 with Tim Creasy, who's head of research at ProSci, which is a change management research institution. And you will learn how to help yourself and others navigate transitions, which is such a key skill, again, in these very rapidly changing times. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, please do so and share the episodes that you find most helpful. And feel free to download the Momentum Institute app. It has some nice goodies on there, some tools and courses to help you to master your mindset and be able to be even more adaptable in the face of any change. Bye for now.